There are many families in Peppa Pig, and because of that, we get to know the grandparents of different characters throughout the episodes of the show. But have you noticed how little we actually know about where each of them lives? The paternal grandparents' house. One of the most mysterious houses is definitely Peppa's paternal grandparents' house. In other words, Daddy Pig's parents. Not only is the home where these grandparents live a mystery, but they themselves are a huge mystery too. The little pig's paternal grandparents have never appeared in the series more than 400 episodes, and they have never even been mentioned, as if they simply do not exist. But that makes very little sense because Daddy Pig has to have parents. No pig is born out of nowhere. Even so, the only pig grandparents we have seen so far are the maternal grandparents, who are Mummy Pig's parents. One explanation for why the paternal grandparents have never appeared is that their house is located very far away, maybe even in another country, which would make a lot of sense. If that is the case, then it is only a matter of time before a new episode shows the Pig family traveling to another country to visit Peppa's paternal grandparents' house, which would give us the chance to meet both Daddy Pig's parents and their home. Could Daddy Pig have lived in that place at some point in his life? We know that he was already living in Peppa Town as a child since he studied at Madame Gazelle's school alongside Mummy Pig, but nothing stops him from having spent the first years of his life in another country with his parents, and while he was still a child, his family moving to Peppa Town. It is also possible to imagine that after Daddy Pig became an adult, his parents moved back to their old house while he stayed in Peppa Town, probably because he had already started dating Mummy Pig. Interesting, right? But this is only the beginning, because we are going to tell you everything we know about the hidden grandparents' houses in Peppa Pig. So grab your popcorn and get comfy on the couch. Another Cinewave is starting. The maternal grandparents' house. Unlike the paternal grandparents, Peppa's maternal grandparents have appeared many times in the series, and their house has appeared several times as well. But that is far from meaning there are no unanswered questions about their home. Do you have any idea how far their house is from where Peppa lives? This is where things start getting strange. In several episodes, it is shown that Peppa's parents need to drive to visit Granny and Grandpa Pig's house, with Peppa's parents' red car even appearing parked next to the grandparents' house when the episode already starts inside, implying that there was an off-screen trip. So the maternal grandparents live a certain distance away from Peppa, right? Actually, not exactly, because there are other moments that suggest the complete opposite. In certain episodes, they manage to get to the grandparents' house extremely quickly. One example is in the episode Metal Detector Quest, where Mummy Pig is standing in front of her house. Then she walks away, and in the very next scene, she is already at her parents' house, grabbing a metal detector and returning to her house immediately afterward. All of that happens within just a few seconds, as if the two houses were side by side. That makes absolutely no sense. If Peppa's grandparents' house is that close, why does her family drive there? Why do we see the car traveling through several roads before arriving? It feels like there is something very wrong with this story, some detail they are hiding from us. No. Grandpa Rabbit's house. The Rabbit family is amazing, and one of the best characters in that family is Grandpa Rabbit. The competition between him and Miss Rabbit over who is the best character in the family is intense. However, his case is kind of funny. Grandpa Rabbit does not seem to have a house, at least not a normal one. He is always seen at his lighthouse, making it seem like that is where he lives. However, there is a possibility that he lives somewhere much farther away. The moon. Yes, it sounds absurd when we say it like that, but Grandpa Rabbit is a genius inventor and even built a rocket that took Peppa and her friends to the moon in one episode. That makes him one of the smartest characters in Peppa Pig, alongside Edmund Elephant. In other words, he is capable of visiting the moon whenever he wants, so there is nothing stopping him from living there. Just imagine if Grandpa Rabbit has been living on the moon this whole time. It is very clear that he is someone who likes being isolated, so it would not be absurd if he were living in outer space, one of the few places where nobody else can go to bother him. On the moon, Grandpa Rabbit can stay alone and have the peace he needs to build his crazy inventions. Granny Sheep's house. Unlike the other grandparents, Granny Sheep lives in the same house as her daughter and granddaughter, which is shown in the episode Granny Sheep Moves In. However, that means Granny Sheep used to live somewhere else before that, a place that has never been shown. What we can imagine is that it was a pretty large house, since she brought many things from her old home during the move. Will we ever see Granny Sheep's old house someday? It is not impossible, since a flashback could show that place. It is easy to imagine that house being where Mummy Sheep lived during her younger years, unless Granny Sheep moved twice. There is even a chance that she still owns the house, but now uses it as storage or something similar. After all, she did not need to buy a new home since she simply moved into her daughter's house. And if Granny Sheep did not need to buy a new place to live, then she also did not need to sell her original house to get some money. So, which of these houses would you most like to see appear in the show? Comment down below with #house along with your answer. Granny Wolf's house. The Wolf family is one of the weirdest families in Peppa Pig, mainly because they always seem very interested in devouring some little pig, especially Daddy Pig. But at least the place where they live is not a mystery, because we know that Daddy Pig himself helped build this family's house when they moved to Peppa Town. The real problem is Granny Wolf, because nobody knows where she lives. And the worst part is that she also seems to have a dark side. In Wendy Wolf's birthday, when Granny Wolf is asked why she has those teeth, she almost says they are for devouring cake. But she said it in a way that really sounded like she was about to say they were for devouring people. Maybe it was just a joke, but what if Granny Wolf really does devour other people and almost let that secret slip out? That would explain why her house has never appeared. It is possible that she does not have a house like the other characters, and instead lives alone in the forest like a real wolf, attacking and devouring travelers without anyone seeing her. If that were revealed in an episode of Peppa Pig, the series would become much darker. But it is likely that this is true and will never be revealed within the show, continuing as a cruel truth hidden inside a children's cartoon. Granny Elephant's house. Edmund and Emily Elephant's grandmother is a very interesting and realistic case. Granny Elephant used to live in an apartment with very few belongings until she needed to move away. The reason for the move? In the apartment where she lived, Granny Elephant had to climb stairs to reach her home, which was a problem for someone her age. Many elderly people have a lot of difficulty going up and down stairs. Depending on Granny Elephant's situation, she may even have some serious problem in the joints of her legs that caused her to receive medical advice to move into a house without stairs. Ever since Granny Elephant moved away, we still do not know what her new house looks like. The Lion family's house. It is not only the grandparents in this show who have mysteries surrounding their houses. The Lion family is made up of Lorenzo Lion and his parents, but there is also something curious about their homes, because they do not have just one house, but two. We saw this in the episode where Peppa met Lorenzo and the two played at his father Mr. Lion's house. However, at a certain point, Lorenzo and Peppa suddenly travel somewhere else, Lorenzo's mother's house. That is right, each of his parents has their own home, which suggests that they are divorced. This was a very interesting way for the show to reveal that, because the information about the divorce was never directly spoken out loud. Instead, the episode simply showed what life is like for a child with divorced parents who needs to live in both houses, which is much more effective in helping children in that situation feel represented than simply having a character say, Lorenzo's parents are divorced. Madame Gazelle's house. Another house that stands out is Madame Gazelle's house, the beloved teacher from Peppa's school. You would expect her to live in a charming and organized place, but what we discovered when we saw her house was the complete opposite. The entire place is crooked, to the point where you could even fall to one side when entering it. All because of a tree that grew next to the house and became so huge that it started pushing the building sideways. But the truly strange part is, how does the furniture stay in place? If the house is so crooked that nobody can walk through it without falling over, then the tables and chairs should also fall to one side. Did Madame Gazelle glue or nail them into place? There's a new video every day, and only subscribers get it first. So subscribe and don't miss out. The Cow family's house. It was beautiful to watch the Cow family come together in Peppa Pig, with Mrs. Cow and Mr. Bull meeting each other, becoming boyfriend and girlfriend, and eventually getting married in one of the most beautiful episodes in the entire cartoon. But where did they start living after that? At Mrs. Cow's house or at Mr. Bull's house? Or did they buy a brand new place to live like many couples do? None of that has been answered so far, even though these are valid questions that deserve answers, especially because so many people who watch Peppa Pig love this couple and enjoy seeing them together. Grandpa Dog's house. In a case similar to Grandpa Rabbit's, Grandpa Dog, who, by the way, is a great friend of both Grandpa Rabbit and Grandpa Pig, always appears inside his garage workshop, but we never actually get to see his house, which suggests that he may really live inside the workshop itself. Of course, there is also a chance that he lives with his son and grandson, but unfortunately that is something we simply have no way of knowing. No need to leave yet, we've left 2 amazing videos on the screen for you to enjoy. See you next time!